The alarm bells rang across the massive ship called Serenity's Edge. Admiral Zexai rushed to the main control room, his 4 blue eyes wide with worry. His tall, thin body moved quickly through the metal hallways. The sound meant only one thing. Someone was in terrible danger. "What is happening?" Zexai asked as he reached his command chair. The lights on the control panels blinked red and yellow, showing that something was very wrong. Lieutenant Colden, a short alien with green skin and 6 arms, looked up from his station. "Sir, we got a distress call from the Cathara worlds." Bad. Really bad. Zexai felt his heart sink. The Cathara were peaceful water people who lived on beautiful ocean planets. They never hurt anyone. They just wanted to trade and live quietly. "Show me," he said. The big screen in front of them lit up. Cathora appeared. She looked like a blue dolphin that could walk on 2 legs. Her name was Ambassador Shelwa, and she was crying. Behind her, explosions lit up the sky. Buildings were falling down. People were screaming. "Please," Shelwa said, her voice shaking. "The Vorthok swarm has come to our worlds. They are eating everything. Our people, our cities, our oceans. We have maybe 3 days before everyone is dead. Please, someone help us." The message ended. The control room was very quiet. Everyone knew about the Vorthok swarm. They were like giant space bugs that ate entire planets. No one had ever beaten them. "How many ships do they have?" Zexai asked. Dr. Veltara, the science officer, checked her computer. She had purple skin and tentacles instead of hair. "At least 50 bioships, sir. Each one is as big as a city. They adapt to any weapon we use against them." Zexai closed his eyes. This was impossible. Cathara only had small defense ships. The Galactic Council had rules about not having big armies. It was supposed to keep peace. But now those rules meant the Catharea could not protect themselves. "Sir," said the communications officer, "I'm getting responses to the Catharea distress call." "Good," Zexai said. "Who is coming too?" "Help?" The officer looked sad. "No one, sir. The Centauri Federation says it's too dangerous. The Rigel Alliance won't risk their fleet. The Crystal Empire sends their thoughts and prayers, but no ships." Zexai felt angry. These were supposed to be civilized people. But when someone needed help, they all ran away. "What about our fleet, sir?" Dr. Veltara said quietly, "Our ships are designed for peace missions. The Vorthok would destroy us in minutes."
Oh.
The room was quiet again.
Oh.
Everyone felt helpless. The Cathara were going to die and no one could save them. Then Lieutenant Colden spoke up. "Sir, there's one more response coming in. It's from a system I've never heard of before. Where?" Zexai asked. "A place called Sol. The message is coming. From the 3rd planet? They call themselves humans." Zexai had never heard of humans before. "What do we know about them?" Dr. Veltara typed on her computer. Information appeared on the screen. "Not much, sir. Our scouts found their system a few years ago. The 3rd planet is listed as a Class 12 death world." Everyone in the room gasped. Class 12 was the worst rating possible. It meant the planet was so dangerous that nothing should be able to live there. "That's impossible," said Lieutenant Colden. "No intelligent life can evolve on a Class 12 world." Dr. Veltara read more information. "The planet has extreme gravity, almost twice what most species can handle. The weather is violent. There are massive storms that can destroy cities. The temperature changes wildly. Most of the planet is covered in salt water that would kill most life forms. And the land creatures ... They all seem designed to hunt and kill each other. And somehow people live there." Zexai asked. "Not just live, sir. They have space travel. They have built cities. They have art and music and science. It doesn't make sense?" The communications officer raised his hand. "Sir, their message is coming through now." "Put it on the main screen," Zexai ordered. The screen changed. A creature appeared that looked almost like the people in the Galactic Council, but different. It had pink skin and hair on top of its head. Its eyes were small and blue. When it spoke, its voice was deep and strong. This is Captain Jake Morrison of the Earth ship Defiance. We received the distress call from the Cathera worlds. We are sending a fleet to help. We should arrive in 72 hours. The message was short and simple. But there was something in the human's voice that made Zexai feel strange. It sounded confident. It sounded like this Jake Morrison was not afraid of the Vorthok at all. "Sir," Dr. Veltara said, looking at her computer, "I'm reading 5 ships heading toward Catharospace. They're moving fast." 5 ships? Lieutenant Colden laughed. The Vorthok have 50 bioships. This is crazy. But Zexai was thinking, if these humans lived on a Class 12 death world, maybe they were different from other people. Maybe they knew how to fight in ways that others did not. "Get me everything we can find about these humans," he ordered. "I want to know what kind of people answer a distress call that everyone else is afraid to help with." Double quotes, Dr. Veltara worked at her computer for an hour. Finally, she looked up. "Sir, this is very strange. The humans have been fighting wars on their planet for thousands of years. It's not just between countries, but against their own environment. Their planet tries to kill them every day." "What do you mean?" Zexai asked. "Their weather can freeze entire continents or burn them with heat. The ground shakes and destroys cities. Mountains explode and cover everything in hot rock. The oceans have storms that are bigger than most of our cities. And somehow, these humans learn to survive all of it." Lieutenant Colden shook his head. "But fighting a planet is not the same as fighting the Vorthok swarm." "Maybe not," said Zexai. "But maybe that's exactly what we need. People who know how to fight impossible fights." 3 days later, the human fleet arrived at Cathara space. Zexai watched on his sensors as 5 small ships dropped out of hyperspace. They looked rough and simple compared to the smooth, beautiful ships of the Galactic Council. But there was something about them that felt dangerous. The lead ship sent a message. It was the same human from before, Captain Jake Morrison. "This is the used Defiance to any Cathara or allied forces. We're here to help." "Where do you want us to start?" Zexai stared at the screen. The human looked calm. Behind him, Zexai could see his bridge crew. They all looked ready for battle. These were not peaceful explorers or diplomats. These were warriors. "Sir," said the communications officer, "the Cathara are asking if we should warn the humans about what they're facing." Zexai thought about it. Maybe he should tell them that the Vorthok had destroyed 17 civilizations. Maybe he should explain that their bioships could adapt to any weapon. Maybe he should suggest that 5 ships could not win against 50. But something stopped him. These humans had crossed space to help people they had never met. They came from a world that most people thought was impossible to live on. And they sounded like they knew exactly what they were doing. "No," Zexai said finally. "Let's see what these Deathworlders can do." Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of his ship, the Defiance. He was a tall man with gray hair and blue eyes that had seen many battles. His uniform was dark blue with patches that showed he had fought in wars across space. Next to him stood Commander Lisa Warren, a woman with short brown hair and a calm face. She was his best fighter and strategist. "Carlos, what do you see on the sensors?" Jake asked his chief engineer. Chief Engineer Carlos Rodriguez looked at his computer. "Screen." He was a stocky man with dark skin and hands that were always dirty from fixing machines. "Captain, I'm seeing something I've never seen before. Those Vorthok ships. They're alive." "What do you mean alive?" asked Navigator Amy Foster. She was a young woman with blonde hair who had grown up in the underwater cities of Earth's oceans. "I mean, they're not built, they're grown," Carlos said. "These aren't metal ships with engines. They're giant space creatures. Each one is the size of a city, and they're all connected somehow." Jake looked at the main screen. The Vorthok bioships looked like massive black whales floating in space. They had no windows or doors that he could see. Instead, they had bumps and ridges that pulsed with a sick green light. Smaller creatures moved around them like flies around a dead animal. "Lisa, what's our weapon status?" Jake asked. Commander Warren checked her station. "All weapons are loaded and ready, sir. We have nuclear missiles, plasma cannons, and the kinetic kill vehicles. But Captain, I've been reading the reports about these things. They adapt to whatever you shoot at them. That's what makes them so dangerous, said Amy. The galactic records show they've eaten 17 different civilizations. Each time they learned from the weapons used against them and became immune. Jake smiled, but it was not a happy smile. It was the smile of a predator who had found interesting prey. That's their mistake. They've only fought civilizations that follow the galactic rules of war. They've never fought humans. The communication system beeped. Voice came through. Speaking in the flowing language of the Cathara, Catharlos pressed a button, and the computer translated it into English. Human ships. This is Admiral Zexai of the Galactic Council Fleet. We need to talk before you engage the enemy. Put him through, Jake said. The main screen changed to show the bridge of an alien ship. Admiral Zexai appeared, a tall, thin blue alien with 4 eyes. Behind him, other aliens worked at strange-looking computers. Captain Morrison, Zexai said, I appreciate your courage in coming here, but you don't understand what you're facing. The Vorthok swarm has destroyed worlds. Their bioships can't be killed by conventional weapons. Jake crossed his arms. Admiral, with respect, you don't know what we've brought to this fight? These creatures have been bullying civilizations that evolved on safe, peaceful worlds. If never fought anyone from a death world. Dr. Veltara, the purple-skinned alien with tentacles, leaned forward. Captain, your planet being dangerous doesn't mean you can fight the Vorthok. They have weapons you can't imagine. Commander Warren stepped up to the screen. Doctor, let me ask you something. Have any of the civilizations they destroyed ever fought a species that uses nuclear weapons? Nuclear weapons are primitive, Dr. Valterra said. The Vorthok actually feed on radiation. It makes them stronger. Carlos laughed from his station. Ma'am, our nukes aren't for the big ships, therefore cutting off their food supply. See, we've been studying your records. These things need to eat biomass to survive. They collect it from planets and from the wreckage of battles. So, asked Zexai, so we're going to make their food. Radioactive, Amy explained. When they try to eat it, it will poison them from the inside. It's like putting rat poison in their dinner. The aliens on the screen looked confused. Lieutenant Colden, the green alien with 6 arms, spoke up. But that's using the environment as a weapon. Exactly, Jake said. Where we come from, everything is trying to kill you. The weather, the animals, the plants, even the ground under your feet. We learned a long time ago that the best way to fight an enemy is to turn their own strengths against them. Dr. Veltara looked at her computer. Captain, I'm reading your ship's weapons. You have some systems I don't recognize. What is Project Prometheus? Jake's smile got wider and more dangerous. That's something special we brought just for creatures like the Vorthok. See, Dr. Humans have been fighting each other for thousands of years. We've gotten very good at killing things that adapt. The screen showing Cathara Prime suddenly flashed red. One of the Vorthok bioships was moving toward the planet. It was easily 5 miles long and covered in spikes and teeth. It opened its mouth and began sucking up one of the floating cities. They're feeding, Zexai said, his voice full of horror. Captain, you have to do something now, or millions will die. Jake turned to his crew. Carlos launched the hunter-killers. Amy, plot us a course through the asteroid field near the 4th planet. Lisa, prep the Prometheus system for deployment. Hunter-killers launched, Carlos reported. Did 12 autonomous units, each one programmed to hunt and destroy Vorthok Scout organisms. On the screen, tiny objects shot out from the human ships. They moved through space like sharks through water, fast and silent. When they found the small Vorthok creatures that were scouting the area, they struck quickly and disappeared before the bioships could react. Impossible, Dr. Veltara whispered. Their adaptation response should have activated by now. Can't. Adapt to something you never see coming, Amy said as she piloted the ship between 2 large asteroids. Those hunter-killers use different attack methods every time. Explosives, acid, electromagnetic pulse, kinetic impact. By the time the Vorthok figured out one attack, the drone has already changed to something else. The Vorthok fleet began to move. The massive bioships turned toward the human fleet like sleeping giants waking up. Their skin began to change color, showing they were preparing for battle. Captain, Commander Warren said, I'm reading massive energy buildup in their weapons systems. They're preparing to fire some kind of bioplasma. Good, Jake said. Them come, Carlos. Are the mines in position? Yes, sir. 3,000 units spread throughout the debris field. Look like space junk, but they're actually hunter organisms we brought from Earth's deep ocean trenches. Admiral Zexai looked confused. Hunter organisms? Things that eat other things, Carlos explained. We found them in the deepest parts of our oceans, where the pressure would crush your ships, and the water is so cold it would freeze most life forms solid. These little guys are designed to hunt in the dark and eat anything they can catch. The first Vorthok bioship fired. A stream of green energy shot toward the Defiance, but Amy was ready. She spun the ship between two asteroids, using Earth's high-gravity training to pull maneuvers that would have killed most alien pilots. Air aim is based on standard physics, she reported. They expect their targets to move like ships from low-gravity worlds, not accounting for human reaction. Speeds. The bioplasma hit the asteroid instead of the ship. The rock exploded in a shower of glowing fragments. But Carlos had been waiting for this. As the debris spread out, his hidden minds activated. What looked like space dust suddenly came alive, thousands of tiny creatures swimming through space, toward the Vorthok ships. What are those things? Lieutenant Colden asked, staring at his sensors. Dinner guests, Jake said. They're about to teach the Vorthok what it's like to be hunted by something nastier than they are. The small hunter organisms reached the nearest bioship and began to burrow into its hull. The massive creature convulsed, as Earth's deep sea. Predators started eating it from the inside out. Its adaptive defenses couldn't figure out how to fight creatures that had evolved to hunt in Earth's most hostile environments. Captain Lisa said, checking her weapons, the Prometheus system is ready for deployment. Jake looked at the screen where Admiral Zexai and his crew were watching in amazement as one of the supposedly invincible Vorthok bioships began to die. Not yet, Jake said. First, we're going to show them what humans do to bullies. Amy, take us in close. Carlos, prepare boarding parties. Boarding parties, Dr. Veltara gasped. You can't be serious. No one boards a Vorthok bioship and survives. Jake's smile was now absolutely terrifying. Doctor, no one from a peaceful world has ever tried, but we're not from a peaceful world. We're from the place where nightmares evolved. We're about to teach the Vorthok why that matters. Human fleet moved forward into the swarm of giant bioships. On the alien vessels watching, crews that had lived their entire lives in safety and comfort watched in disbelief as 5 small ships full of Deathworlders went hunting among the galaxy's most feared predators. The real battle was about to begin. The first Vorthok scout never knew what killed it. Amy Foster watched her sensors as the alien creature disappeared from the screen. It had been the size of a school bus, covered in teeth and moving through space like a swimming shark.
Ow.
It was there, scanning the human ships. The next moment it was gone. Hunter-killer drone number 7 reports successful elimination, Carlos said from his station. Target destroyed before it could send any information back to the hive mind. Captain Jake Morrison nodded. This was exactly what he had hoped for. The Vorthok had never fought an enemy that hunted them back. For millions of years, they had been the predators. Every species they met either ran away or died fighting. None had ever turned the tables and started hunting them. How many scouts have we eliminated? Jake asked. 37 so far, Amy reported. The Vorthok keeps sending them out, but they don't come back. The bioships are starting to act confused. The main screen? They could see the massive Vorthok fleet. The bioships were moving in strange patterns now, like a pack of wolves that had lost the scent of their prey. They were used to seeing everything, knowing everything. Now they were blind. Commander Lisa Warren stood next to Jake, watching the enemy ships. Sir, they're trying to adapt. I can see changes in their scout organism designs. They're making them bigger and more armored. Doesn't matter, Carlos said with a grin. Our hunter-killers adapt too. That's what makes them special. They learn from each kill and change their attack methods. Admiral Zexai appeared on the communication screen. His 4 blue eyes were wide with disbelief. "Captain Morrison, our sensors show that you've destroyed dozens of Vorthok scouts without them ever seeing your weapons. How is this possible?" Jake turned to the screen. "Admiral, the Vorthok fight like bullies. They're used to being bigger and stronger than everyone else. But where we come from, size doesn't always win. Sometimes the small, fast, smart predator beats the big, slow one." Dr. Veltara leaned into view on the alien bridge. "But Captain, their adaptive abilities should have countered your weapons by now. They've had time to study your attack patterns."
That's
"The beauty of it," Amy said. "They can't study what they can't see. Our hunter-killers are based on creatures from Earth's deep ocean. Down there, everything hunts in complete darkness. You either learn to be invisible and deadly, or you become food." The Vorthok fleet suddenly changed formation. The bioships began spreading out, putting distance between themselves. They were learning to be afraid. "Look at that," Lisa said, pointing at the screen. "They're breaking their standard attack formation. They've never had to worry about being hunted before." Jake smiled his predator's smile. "Carlos, deploy the next phase. Time to show them what humans do to their food supply." "Deploying viral packets," Carlos reported. From the human ships, invisible clouds spread through space. They looked like nothing on any sensor, just empty space. But they carried something the Vorthok had never encountered before. "What are viral packets?" Lieutenant Colden asked from the alien ship. "Biological warfare," Jake explained. "We're not trying to kill the Vorthok with these. We're trying to mess up their communication system. See, hive minds are wonderful when they work, but they have a weakness." Within minutes, the effect began to show. The Vorthok bioships started moving in jerky, uncontrolled patterns. Coordination they had shown before was breaking down. "The viral packets are interfering with their hive mind connection," Lisa explained to the watching aliens. "Each ship is starting to act on its own instead of as part of a group. It's like suddenly making a flock of birds forget how to fly together." Dr. Veltara looked at her instruments. "This is incredible. Their bioelectric communications are being disrupted." "But how did you know this would work?" "Because we've been fighting hive mind creatures on Earth for thousands of years," Amy said. "Ants, bees, termites. We learned that if you mess with their communication, the whole system falls apart." The largest Vorthok bioship, the size of a small moon, began moving toward the human fleet. It was covered in weapons that glowed with sick green light. This was their command ship, the Queen of the Swarm. "That's our target," Jake said. "Carlos, are the boarding pods ready?" "Yes, sir." "Pods loaded with full assault teams." "But Captain, are you sure about this?" No one has ever boarded a Vorthok bioship and lived. Jake checked his own equipment. He was wearing a suit of armor that looked simple, but was made from materials found in the deepest parts of Earth's oceans. It could handle pressure that would crush most alien species and temperatures that would freeze or burn them. "That's because no one from a death world has ever tried," he said. "Lisa, you have command of the ship. Keep them busy while we go inside." "Dar," Lisa said. "What if the bioship's defenses are too strong?" Jake paused at the airlock door. "Commander, these things have been fighting civilizations that grew up on garden worlds. They've never faced anyone who learned to fight by surviving hurricanes, earthquakes, and predators that hunt humans for fun. They're about to learn the difference." The boarding pods launched from the human ships like bullets. They were small, fast, and designed to drill through the toughest materials. As they approached the massive bioship, weapons fired at them. But the pods moved like Earth's deep-sea creatures, fast, unpredictable, and hard to hit. Admiral Zexai watched his sensors in amazement. They're actually doing it. They're boarding the command ship. The first pod hit the bioship's hull and began drilling. Instead of trying to cut through slowly, it used a method no other species had tried. It injected the hull with chemicals that made the organic material dissolve itself. "Brilliant," Dr. Veltara whispered. "They're not fighting the bioships. Structure. They're making it fight itself." Jake and his team burst through the hole into the inside of the alien vessel. The corridors were dark and wet, like being inside a giant's stomach. The walls pulsed with a heartbeat, and strange fluids dripped from the ceiling. "This is disgusting," said Sergeant Bill Murphy, one of Jake's soldiers. He was a man who had grown up in the radioactive wastelands of Earth's Arctic regions. "Focused?" Jake ordered. "Remember, we're not here to sightsee. We're here to teach these things a lesson." The team moved through the bioship like antibodies through a bloodstream. They had trained for this by fighting in Earth's most hostile environments: underwater caves, volcanoes, radioactive storms. The inside of an alien bioship was just another hostile environment to survive. They reached the first major organ, a pulsing mass that seemed to control the ship's movement. Instead of destroying it, Jake did something that no other species had ever tried. He began performing surgery on it. "What are you doing?" Amy asked over the radio. "Rewiring it," Jake said as he worked. "If we just blow it up, the ship will grow. A new one. But if we change how it works, we can turn the ship's own systems against it." The bioship began to shudder as Jake's team worked. They weren't destroying the organs, they were reprogramming them. The ship's own healing systems started working against it, trying to fix damage that wasn't really damage. On the bridge of the Defiance, Lisa watched as the massive bioship began to convulse. "Captain, whatever you're doing in there, it's working." The ship is losing control. But Jake wasn't finished. His team had found something even more important: the ship's communication center. It was a massive brain-like organ that connected this ship to all the others in the fleet. "Carlos," Jake said over the radio, "are you ready with the psychological warfare package?" "Ready, Captain. It's going to hurt them in ways they never imagined." "Do it." Carlos activated a system that sent human thoughts and emotions directly into the Vorthok hive mind. For the first time in their existence, the Vorthok experienced something completely alien to them: individual fear. The effect was immediate and terrible. The Vorthok, who had never known doubt or uncertainty, were suddenly flooded with the emotional patterns of creatures who had spent millions of years being afraid and getting angry about it. Their coordination collapsed as the hive mind experienced panic for the first time. "My God," Admiral Zexai whispered, watching his sensors. "The entire fleet is breaking apart. They're not acting like a swarm anymore. They're acting like individual animals who are terrified." Jake's voice came over the radio, calm and professional. "Admiral, the Vorthok made a simple mistake. They thought fear was weakness. But fear is what kept humans alive on a planet that wanted to kill us. Fear makes you smart. Fear makes you careful. And most importantly, fear makes you creative when you're fighting for your life." 3 of the bioships suddenly began moving toward each other, but not in formation. They were colliding, their pilots confused and terrified by the human emotions flooding their minds. "This is impossible," Dr. Valterra said. "They're destroying themselves." "Not destroying," Lisa corrected. "From the Defiance Bridge, learning. They're learning what it feels like to be prey instead of predators, and they don't like it." Jake and his team had reached the bioship's reproductive chambers. Here, new Vorthok were being grown to replace those lost in battle. But instead of destroying the chambers, Jake did something that would haunt the Vorthok for generations. He introduced new programming into their genetic systems. "What are you doing now?" Amy asked. The first Vorthok bioship died at exactly 14 minutes past the hour. Admiral Zexai watched his sensors in complete shock as the massive creature, something that had survived attacks from 3 different galactic fleets, began to convulse and break apart. Green fluids leaked from cracks in its hull as the bioship's own systems turned against it. "This is impossible," Dr. Valtara whispered, her tentacles writhing with confusion. "That ship has adaptive armor that can heal from any damage. It should be regenerating." "It can't regenerate from damage it's doing to itself, Commander Lisa," Warren explained over the communication link from the human ship Defiance. "Captain Morrison and his team didn't destroy the ship's systems. They reprogrammed them." Lieutenant Colden stared at his 6-armed hand shaking as he watched the readings. The bioship is eating itself from the inside. Its own digestive systems are attacking its vital organs. On the bridge of the Defiance, Amy Foster was coordinating the next phase of the attack. Her blonde hair was tied back as she worked at her station, her blue eyes focused on the tactical display. Growing up in Earth's underwater cities had taught her to think in 3 dimensions and plan for disasters. "Captain Morrison is back on board," she reported. "All boarding teams have returned safely. The target bioship is neutralized." But Jake Morrison wasn't finished. He walked onto the bridge, still wearing his assault armor, which was covered in the green slime from inside the alien ship. His gray hair was messy, and his blue eyes held the satisfied look of a predator who had just won a difficult hunt. "Lisa, what's the status of the rest of their fleet?" "Sir, they're in complete chaos. The psychological warfare package you planted is spreading through their hive mind network. Every ship in their fleet is experiencing human emotions for the first time." Jake nodded. This was exactly what he had planned. The Vorthok had spent millions of years as a perfect hive mind, acting as one giant organism. They had never experienced individual fear, doubt, or panic. Now they were drowning in emotions they couldn't understand or control. "Carlos, are you tracking their communication patterns?" Chief Engineer Carlos Rodriguez looked up from his station. His dark face was grinning with satisfaction. "Yes, sir. Their hive mind is fracturing. Okay. Individual bioships are starting to act on their own. Some are trying to flee. Others are attacking their own allies. They don't know how to handle being individuals instead of parts of a group." On the main screen, they could see the Vorthok fleet tearing itself apart. Ships that had moved in perfect coordination for millions of years were now colliding with each other. Some were firing their weapons randomly into space. Others were trying to hide behind asteroids. Admiral Zexai's voice came through the communicator, filled with amazement and horror. "Captain Morrison, what have you done to them?" "We taught them what it feels like to be mortal," Jake replied. "For their entire existence, the Vorthok have acted like a single immortal organism. They never had to worry about individual death because they were all connected. Now each ship thinks it might die alone, and they don't know how to handle that. Fear." Dr. Veltara appeared on the screen, her purple skin pale with shock. "But Captain, this is psychological warfare on a scale we've never seen. You've essentially given an entire species a mental breakdown." Dr. Amy said, turning from her station. "The Vorthok have been causing mental breakdowns for millions of years. Every species they've destroyed died in terror, watching their worlds get eaten. We just gave them a taste of their own medicine." Largest bioship in the Vorthok fleet, their command vessel, was now moving erratically through space. It was the size of a small moon and had been the brain of their entire operation. But now it was acting like a wounded animal, lashing out at everything around it. "That's our next target," Jake said, pointing at the massive ship. "Carlos, are the special weapons ready?" "Project Prometheus is fully armed and ready, Captain." "But sir, are you sure we want to use it? Once we do this, there's no going back." Jake looked at the screen showing Cathara Prime. The beautiful water world was scarred with black marks where the Vorthok had been feeding. Millions of innocent people had died while the galaxy's civilized species did nothing to help. They made their choice when they decided to eat civilizations for lunch, Jake said. "Fire when ready." Carlos pressed a series of buttons on his console. From the belly of the Defiance, something launched toward the Vorthok command ship. It didn't look like much, just a small metallic cylinder about the size of a refrigerator. "Is that Admiral Zexai?" asked. "That," Lisa said with grim satisfaction, "is 4 billion years of evolutionary warfare compressed into one weapon." The cylinder reached the command bioship and attached itself to the hull. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the ship began to change. The organic armor that had protected it for millions of years started to bubble and melt. "Impossible, Doctor," Veltara gasped. "What kind of weapon can dissolve bioarmor that adapts to any attack?" "It's not dissolving the armor," Amy explained. "It's introducing Earth organisms into the ship's biological systems. Specifically, organisms from our planet's most extreme environments." Jake watched with satisfaction as the massive command ship began to convulse. Vorthok think they're the ultimate biological weapons, but they've never met Earth bacteria that evolved in boiling acid springs, or viruses that thrive in radioactive waste, or parasites that can eat anything organic. Carlos added, "We took samples from every hostile environment on Earth. deep ocean vents where the water is hot enough to melt metal, acid lakes that can dissolve rock, ice caves where nothing should be able to live. We made them all work. Together, the effect was devastating. The Vorthok command ship, which had conquered 17 civilizations, was being eaten alive by Earth microorganisms. Its adaptive defenses couldn't keep up because they were facing not one threat, but thousands of different biological attacks all at once. This is what happens, Jake said grimly, when a predator species meets prey that evolved to be more predatory than they are. Lieutenant Colden's 6 arms were shaking as he watched his sensors. Captain, the command ship is sending out distress calls. They're begging for help. Let them beg, Amy said coldly. Did they listen when the Cathara begged? Did they show mercy to any of the 17 civilizations they destroyed? The command ship was breaking apart now. Huge pieces of organic matter were floating away into space as Earth's microscopic predators consumed everything they could reach. The once mighty vessel that had led the destruction of worlds was being reduced to cosmic debris by creatures too small to see. But Jake wasn't finished with his lesson. Lisa, target their remaining bioships with the hunter-killer swarms. I want every Vorthok in this system to see what happens when they pick a fight with Deathworlders. Yes, sir. Launching. Full swarm deployment. From all 5 human ships, clouds of tiny objects launched into space. They looked like metallic insects, each one no bigger than a person's hand. But they moved through space with the coordinated precision of Earth's most efficient predators. Admiral Zexai watched in fascination and horror as the small human drones swarmed over the remaining Vorthok bioships. Unlike the random panic the aliens were experiencing, the human drones worked together with deadly efficiency. How are your machines so coordinated while theirs are falling apart? He asked. Because our drones aren't a hive mind, Carlos explained. They're a pack. Each one is an individual hunter that chooses to work with the others. When one dies, the others adapt and keep fighting. When a hive mind breaks, everything stops working. The hunter-killer drones found the weak points in each bioship and began their attack. But they didn't just destroy randomly. They targeted specific systems: life support, navigation, weapons, communication. They wanted the Vorthok to live long enough to understand what was happening to them. They're learning, Amy reported. The Vorthok are trying to adapt their defenses, but our drones are changing their attack patterns faster than they can respond. One by one, the Vorthok bioships began to die. Some exploded as their power systems overloaded. Others simply went dark as their neural networks were severed. Few tried to flee, but the human hunter-killers followed them like sharks following blood. Dr. Veltara was recording everything, her tentacles moving rapidly over her instruments. Captain Morrison, this is the most comprehensive defeat of a major threat that galactic history has ever recorded. How did your species develop such effective weapons? Jake's answer was simple, but chilling. Doctor, we didn't develop them. We are them. Every weapon we use today is based on something that exists naturally on Earth. We're not using tools to fight the Vorthok, showing them what it's like to be hunted by an entire planet's worth of evolution. In less than 6 hours, the Vorthok swarm that had terrorized the galaxy for millions of years was completely destroyed. 50 bioships, each one capable of consuming a civilization, were reduced to floating debris. The few survivors fled into deep space, carrying with them the memory of their defeat. Admiral Zexai finally found his voice. Captain, how many casualties did you take? None, Jake replied. We lost some equipment, but every human is alive and well. How is that possible? The silence in space was peaceful for the first time in months. Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the Defiance, looking at the debris field that had once been the mighty Vorthok swarm. Pieces of bioships floated like dead leaves in the void. The green glow that had marked their presence was gone, replaced by the cold light of distant stars. Final count, Carlos? Jake asked his chief engineer. Carlos Rodriguez looked up from his station, wiping grease from his hands. 52. Bioships destroyed, Captain? No survivors detected in this system? Our hunter-killer drones are still tracking 3 ships that fled into deep space. But they're running scared and won't be back. Commander Lisa Warren stood beside Jake, her brown hair still messy from the battle. Sir, we're receiving communications. From all over the galaxy, word of the Vorthok defeat is spreading fast. What kind of communications? Jake asked. Thanks, mostly. The Cathara are crying with joy. But we're also getting messages from other species. They want to know who we are and where we came from. Navigator Amy Foster turned from her station. Captain Admiral Zexai is requesting permission to come aboard our ship. He says he needs to speak with us about something important. Jake nodded. Grant permission. But Amy, make sure he brings a gravity support system. Our ship runs at Earth normal, and that might be too much for him. An hour later, Admiral Zexai materialized in the Defiance's meeting room using an alien teleporter. He was wearing a special suit that helped him move in the heavy gravity of the human ship. His 4 blue eyes looked tired but amazed. Captain Morrison, he said, his voice translated by a small device on his chest. I have lived for 300 years. I have seen wars, disasters, and miracles. But I have never seen anything like what you did today. Jake sat across from the alien admiral. The room was simple and functional, with gray metal walls and basic furniture. It looked nothing like the elegant spaces on galactic ships, but it felt solid and real. Admiral, we just did what needed to be done. The Vorthok were bullies, and someone had to stop them. Zexai leaned forward carefully. Captain, you don't understand. The Vorthok swarm has been the galaxy's greatest fear for millions of years. Entire civilizations built their defense strategies around hiding from them. And you destroyed them in less than a day. Dr. Veltora appeared on a screen in the room. She was back on her own ship but wanted to be part of this conversation. Captain, we need to understand how your species became so effective at warfare. The weapons you used, the strategies you employed there, unlike anything in our databases. Carlos spoke up from where he sat at the table. Doctor, it's simple. We come from a planet that's been trying to kill us since we first stood upright. Everything we use today, the viruses, the hunter organisms, the psychological warfare, they all exist naturally on Earth. But how did you survive long enough to develop space travel? Lieutenant Colden asked, appearing on another screen. His 6 green arms moved nervously as he spoke. Amy smiled, but it was not a pleasant expression. We survived by becoming better killers than anything else on our planet. Every day of human evolution was a competition to see who could stay alive. In a world full of things that wanted to eat us, Admiral Zexai looked confused. But Captain, your species seems capable of great kindness. You came to help the Cathara without asking for anything in return. How can you be both compassionate and so ... deadly? Jake was quiet for a moment. When he spoke, his voice was serious. Admiral, being dangerous and being evil are 2 different things. We're dangerous because we had to be, but we're not cruel. Protect what we care about, and we destroy what threatens it. The Vorthok made a simple mistake, Lisa added. They thought being predators made them strong. But they never learned the most important lesson about being a predator. What lesson? Dr. Veltara asked. There's always something bigger and nastier. Than you are, Amy? Said the Earth. We learned that a long time ago. Every predator is also prey for something else. The Vorthok forgot that rule. Breas Xi stood up slowly, his support suit helping him move in the heavy gravity. Captain, I need to ask you something important. What does humanity want from the galaxy? Territory, resources, tribute. The humans looked at each other. Then Jake laughed, a sound that seemed strange after all the violence of the day. Admiral, we want to be left alone to explore the universe in peace. We want to learn about new worlds and meet new species. We want to trade, to share knowledge, to be friends. That's all? Zexai asked, surprised. That's all, Jake confirmed. But Admiral, make sure this message gets to everyone in the galaxy. If anyone threatens the peaceful civilizations under our protection, they'll learn why Earth is classified as a death world. Carlos leaned back in his chair. The thing is, Admiral, what you saw today was just a rescue mission. We didn't bring our actual military. The aliens on the screens went very quiet. Dr. Veltara was the first to speak. What do you mean, not your actual military? We mean, Amy said calmly, that every human on these ships is either an explorer, a scientist, an engineer, or a trader. We're civilians. Our real soldiers are back home, protecting Earth. Lieutenant Colden's 6 arms started shaking again. You're saying that civilian humans destroyed the most feared force in galactic history? Pretty much, Lisa said. We're just people who grew up in a hostile environment. Our actual warriors trained specifically for combat. Admiral Zexai sat down heavily. Captain Morrison, I need to understand something. If your civilians can do what you did today, what could your military do? Jake's smile was gentle, but somehow more terrifying than when he had been angry. Admiral, let's hope nobody ever finds out. The meeting ended with Admiral Zexai promising to spread word throughout the galaxy about humanity's offer of friendship and protection. As the alien admiral prepared to leave, he turned back to Jake. Captain, there's one more thing. The Cathera. Want to build a monument to honor what you did here? You want to call it the Memorial of the Deathworld Saviors? Jake shook his head. Tell them no monuments. We don't want to be remembered as warriors. We want to be remembered as the people who came when they called for help. After the aliens left, the human crew gathered on the bridge. Outside the windows, they could see Cathara ships moving through space, cleaning up the debris from the battle. The water world below them was healing, its people safe for the first time in months. So what now, Captain? Amy asked. Jake looked at the star charts on the main screen. Space was vast, full of wonders they had never seen and peoples they had never met. Earth was far behind them, but it would always be home. Now we continue our mission, he said. We explore, we learn, we make friends. And if anyone needs help again, we answer the call. Carlos was already working on his computers, preparing the ship for the journey ahead. Where to next, sir? The Andromeda Galaxy reports some interesting signal patterns. Scientists want to investigate. Lisa checked the ship's weapons systems, making sure everything was secure. Should we expect more trouble? Jake thought about that question. In the vastness of space, there would always be predators and bullies. There would always be peaceful people who needed protection. There would always be those who mistook kindness for weakness. Probably, he said finally, but that's okay. We're humans. We're good at handling trouble. Yeah, the 5 human ships turned away from Cathara space and headed for the edge of the galaxy. Behind them, they left a changed universe. Word was already spreading about the species from the Death World. The people who answered distress calls with overwhelming force and asked for nothing in return. Some civilizations sent messages of friendship and trade offers. Others began planning how to stay on humanity's good side. A few in the dark corners of space started making plans to test these new arrivals. But on the bridge of the Defiance, Captain Jake Morrison wasn't thinking about politics or warfare. He was thinking about the next planet they would visit, the next species they would meet, and the next discovery they would make. Earth had taught humanity to be survivors, but it had also taught them to be curious, to be explorers, and to help those who couldn't help themselves. The galaxy was about to learn that, sometimes, the most dangerous thing in the universe was also the most reliable friend you could have. And somewhere in the depths of space, the few surviving Vorthok ships carried a message to any who would listen. There are things in the darkness that even nightmares fear. They call themselves humans, and they come from a place called Earth. Avoid them, or better yet, try to become. They're friends, because the alternative was learning why they called their home world a death world, and that was a lesson no one survived twice.